let's go to the zoo. Okay, we can't really go to the zoo. I mean, you can go to the zoo, but I'm gonna film this, not at the zoo. But instead of going to the zoo, I'm going to go to the imaginary zoo. Today I'm going to show you all of my free crochet zoo patterns. So zoo animals from biggest and impressive to tiny and cute and everything in between. All the patterns that we'll look at today are completely for free, shared on my Lucy Kate Crochet website. I'll pop a link down below and I'll timestamp the different patterns for you if you just want to jump through to whichever zoo animal floats your boat. That's absolutely fine. So let's dive straight in with the first one. I love this wallaby. It's made with chenille yarn. It's soft to the touch. I spent a lot of time sort of working on where the positioning of the eyes should be, insetting them. I also selected some really big safety eyes, caricatures being important for cuteness. I chose those with this like gold backing plate to it that give it this sort of shiny sparkly impact, which is really lovely. It comes with, you're gonna make it with a tiny little Joey in a pouch. Teeny little baby Joey, just with its head poking out. You can have it as a separate thing, you can have it in the pocket. It's really good fun, this one. It's totally simple to make. If this was the first big amigurumi that you made, I think that you'd have a lot of fun with this one. It does have colour changes, but you don't have to go mad and worry too much about them. You can just do it all in the same colour if you want, with just the highlight for the little nose there. This ear detailing is done with surface crocheting, but that's literally just making simple single crochets into an existing stitch, just like you would working in a round, but into the sides of the stitch that you've already made as a bit of crocheted fabric there. So there you go, we've got a lovely crochet wallaby as our first one. I totally want to talk about my hippo next. I don't have the hippo anymore. I made it as a present for my amazing, wonderful, super cool friend's baby. So she's been packed off to her now. But the hippo design is straightforward and simple, but capturing that classic essence of a hippo. I made the little nostrils out of safety eyes, just a smaller size of safety eyes than the actual eyes. And I think that came together really well. And again, it is cool zoo animal and definitely one of the nice straightforward beginner friendly patterns that I've got there on the website. Here's my opossum. It was really fun getting the details of the face right. And whilst, you know, I often mention making a bit of a caricature of things, opossums do actually have huge eyes. So these huge safety eyes, I think we're bang on the money for that one. It's made from an Aran weight, I believe, yarn. I'll double check in the pattern for you. But I got one that was very textured, and I really do like how this gives off more of the sort of furry feel for the opossum itself. Super cute. Definition on the face is done by hand sewing with a nice chunky needle, and yeah, works up really quickly, especially since the vast bulk of the toy is just done in one section. These ears are just, again, a couple of, you know, circles from magic loops, nice straightforward little feet, and then chaining for the tail. What more could you want? My koala was so important to me. Again, it was a gift for a friend who just had a baby. I wanted it to look quite natural and quite koala-ish, more of a sort of realistic approach to the crochet rather than the big cutesy approach of some of the other toys. It's, again, dead straightforward to make. There are a few sort of different techniques that you're going to come across in the pattern, but I've put full instructions for those on the website. It's got these lovely ears, and the positioning of the ears when you're making this toy is going to make a really, really big difference to how the finished toy looks. I played around with several different positions before I set on the one that was the best compromise between where a koala's ears actually sit and where we think a koala's ears actually sit. And it's a really interesting thing when you're making animals. Sometimes our perceptions of an animal don't totally align to what they actually look like. And therefore, when you're creating a toy of it, you need to find a balance between these two things in order for it to be immediately appealing, which is quite interesting, I think. I have a persistent cough, and most of the time I am pretty good at editing most of my coughs out of these videos. You would not believe how often I have to stop and cough. It's ridiculous. Guinea pig mug. Slightly on theme, slightly not. More appropriate to pets. I should do a list of pets. I will do a list of pets. Next we've got my panda, and this panda has caused me more controversy than most of the toys I've made because I got slightly frustrated when I was creating the magic circles with it, and then had a big rant about working with chenille and it getting stuck. I'll link that there. And then people gave me some ideas for working with chenille yarn, which I tested out, 2 of which worked really, really well. And just to very quickly recap, your alternatives for getting sticky magic circles that get all locked together and you can't make them close, so annoying, is to either do the chain 2 method, which is where you don't actually make a magic circle, you make a tiny chain and then you single crochet into it the number of times. The downside of that is it leaves a little gap, but with chenille yarn it's fluffy, so it's quite well hidden. But my absolute favourite one was the person who suggested that you add a section of a different type of yarn, like an acrylic yarn or a wool yarn, to your chenille yarn just for the magic circle section and use that to pull it closed, and it works every time. Legend. Great, great. And it's got me keen to work with it again, and that's how the Wallaby that we looked at before came about. So that's pretty cool. Cute little panda, so classic, nice black and white patterns, really distinctive. Again, a great one if you're wanting a first crochet toy to make, because the coloration alone, even if you have a little bit of trouble with the shapes or the positioning of any of it, just immediately scream panda. I adore my elephant. Absolutely lovely. I was really pleased with this. I wanted a classic sort of, you know, the original illustrations of Winnie the Pooh style or of toy. That sort of simplistic classic toy, and that's what I went for with this one. Again, massively beginner friendly. You're going to find that it's nice sort of repeating patterns with simple stitches that'll be really easy for you to put together. I really liked this bluish grey colour that I used for it, so that I highly recommend going for that one. But I used a fairly thick yarn weight as well, and it's just great, nice and easy to work up. I think you'll enjoy that one. And it's an elephant. Can't go wrong, right? Next, perhaps controversially, we have my raccoon. I say controversially because in this country, a raccoon is a zoo animal, right? It's exciting. I think I've only ever seen 1 or 2, and that's in zoos. But for most of you who are based in America, this is like, this is nothing to write home about and a very commonly seen animal. However, I maintain zoo animal levels of excitement for this one, so it's going in this list. It's nice and fun, again, built from magic circles, a couple of colour changes, but really straightforward ones. And don't worry about that jog again. If you don't like the jog, just twist it so that it's at a point that it's less apparent on the toy. But it knocks together really quickly, and yeah, nice and cutesy little one for you there. Next, drifting between categories like the crazy cats that they are, except that they're not cats, they're a llama and an alpaca. These guys also made it into my shortlist of farm animals. If I do a pets one, potentially they also fit into that, because I do know people that have pet alpacas. But they're so often at zoos, I couldn't not say that they were at zoos. They are the smaller style of Amigurumi, and they've got 2 different levels of detail as well. They make a lovely matched pair, these 2. If you make one of them, I'm always tempted to think, well, why not just make both of them? Because I do love how these look together on my shelf. Great fun and simple shapes, but just be a little bit careful on the construction so that you set the heads and necks in such a way that they can still stand nicely with how they're weighted and positioned. Moving over into the invertebrates house at your special zoo that we're creating here. We've got my crochet tarantula and my crochet scorpion. The tarantula and the scorpion, when I made these, I used pipe cleaners to add definition to the shape, and I have now removed the pipe cleaners because my son uses them as toys, and he was playing with them and sleeping with them, and they were starting to protrude out the end. So I would say if they're going to be played with by a kid, don't do the pipe cleaner method. But if they're not, pipe cleaners are a great way to sort of really create the posture that you're looking for with these, and obviously can't deny they're a great part of the zoo. So next, Staying with that sort of category of thing, let's skirt into the reptile house. I desperately need to make a lot of reptiles, and I am surrounded by reptiles right now, and it feels like a really big pressure to get it right with them, and it's causing me to not be able to start to make them. So at some point I think I'll get going, and then you'll have like streams of reptiles to look at and crochet if you want to. But at the moment, the only reptiles that I have crocheted are my tortoise, and I've also got a turtle, which is incredibly similar. I made one each for my kids. The pattern is almost exactly the same. So you've got your nice turtle head and shell, and then this is the tortoise, so it's got little feet, and then the turtle has little flippers coming out instead. It's chenille yarn again, and this is a lovely one if you're making something with a shell or this mottled, like this camo yarn here, because no colour changes or anything involved with that. So straightforward, and it just does all the work for you. On the home stretch now, we have next the polar bear. Love this design. I was so pleased with it. It's so bad how often I say that I love my own designs, but that's because the designs that I don't love, I don't show to you. One day maybe I'll show to you the things that I've made that I'm no longer proud of, but I'm not sure that that would make a great video. But yeah, so again, big eyes, because this is a polar bear club. A club for polar bears. It's a polar bear cub. Big eyes to really sort of show off that little sort of baby-like features. Made a nice bold nose. Again, super beginner friendly. Bring it properly to life with a dark yarn just for the nose and those little markings of the paws there. I love seeing otters at the zoo. They remind me of my pet ferrets when I was growing up. A nice, straightforward, simple design, but one that's really sort of intended to give off the character of the animal. And finally, the last member of our zoo is my little Rhino. It's made with the same yarn, I think, that I made the elephant and the hippo with. He has got his horns. I used the flecking yarn because it adds a little bit of something extra. This is definitely the cutesy toy version rather than the realistic version in terms of this sort of aesthetic of this one. I turned his little feet inwards using back loop only crochet to give a bit more definition to that part, and we've got these little subtle colour changes to match the horns on the extremities that really, I think, tie the whole thing together. Again, where you position your ears will make a big difference to the look of the toy, so always have a play around with that before you settle on your final position for your finished object. So there you have it, that's the Crochet Zoo. Which one was your favourite? What do you wish that I'd included and I haven't done? I keep thinking about this whole reptile thing. I will go there at some point. I also really want to make a crocodile, also a reptile. Yeah, so what animal would you like to see that you didn't see? Which is your favourite pattern? Have you made any of them before? Let's have a chat in the comments below, and happy crocheting.